Hello, this is Terry Cole with another edition of Three Things. I am the missionary and founder of Street Youth Ministry. I want to be talking today about working issues without shame. Working the issues without shame. Throughout this, I'm going to use the example of employment, but it could really be any issue that you're working on. Let me get rid of the talking head and we'll go through this. Lots of issues have shame associated with them. In the employment world, that shame comes from many forms. We may call somebody lazy, careless, low performing, but here are three ideas for moving past shame to get better outcomes. Number one is look at the foundation first before trying to get the outcome. If you're renovating a house, it's wonderful to get all the walls and doors and windows and countertops and everything all beautiful. But if you do that before you look at the foundation, you might find yourself having major setbacks. If you're going to be helping somebody with an issue, you really need to be an expert at an issue. You really need to talk to a whole bunch of people who have overcome whatever the issue is and collect information about what things worked, what issues were in the way. It is wonderful when you have personal experience, but it's really best to leave that out of the picture, at least for a while. What worked for you may not work for everybody else. You're just one person. You really want to be advising from the basis of statistics. So survey that foundation like a home inspector would and figure out what's going on. For employment, you need things like reasonable stability, mental health, good impulse control. You need soft skills for listening, responding to coworkers, remaining civil, having disagreements, addressing conflicts with customers. You need decent rest, decent health, and relatively low stress in order to hold that job. In the homeless world, none of these are easy, but not everyone has each of those issues. So take it case by case. Address making a good, strong foundation first. Then you can find success without shame. So on to number two. We have a lot of systems in the United States, but you need to work within those systems, but don't accept the shame that they come with. Well, let me explain what I mean by that. I see all these safety net systems as like greenhouses. We live in a forest with grass and trees and sunshine and air, but we create these little greenhouses so that injured plants or seedlings or young plants can grow and recover from some type of trauma that's happened to them or some type of setback. But the whole goal is to get them outside of the greenhouse. They're not meant to be greenhouse plants forever. And so temporary benefit systems have a lot of shame that come with them. It's really is how we establish our safety net system. A lot of those are government based, but they're also social based and organization and church based too. So I encourage you to look at them without shame. There are two main sources of shame in the safety net systems. One, I'm going to call nicely qualifications, and to use words that our clients often use, to get help, I have to show how bad I am. And that hurts. So there's almost always some kind of qualification process or form. And I really encourage you to do that in person if they'll allow it, to do that with the help of someone who's done it before, even if it's written, and let the person who's guide you and ask you the questions. And before you answer them, think about your worst day of that. Don't answer, based on today or, how you're motivated to try to get help. So you're already doing better than before you had this idea of getting help. So I encourage you to think about your worst day before answering each of the questions. If the interviewer has issues with that, they'll flag it. They know and are experts. So don't become defensive during this qualification process and start answering better than your worst days. I've seen a lot of people derail their entry into the greenhouse, and they're fully qualified and everybody wants them in there, but they derail their entry by getting defensive and saying, no, I'm not depressed. No, I don't have low education attainment. I just need a job or something like that. So watch out for that shame and how it can derail you. Second, exit conditions. And that I'm using a very nice term. Typically, these will be things like they'll be called limitations or disqualifiers. Don't buy that. They're the exit conditions. As I said in the beginning, the goal of every plant we put into the greenhouse is to get it back out into the forest and the lawn and the sunshine and the rain. We don't want it stuck in there forever. So look forward to the day that you attain the exit qualifications and can leave the greenhouse safely. Find out what those qualifications are and look forward to exceeding. Don't accept the idea that there's a glass ceiling that you need to go up to and never exceed. In the employment example, when you're in a homeless youth world, when you're hungry, dirty, hot, cold, stressed out to the max, or all of those, SSDI or SSI or unemployment can look pretty darn good, and they probably are. Let an expert interview you, answer the questions honestly, find out if you're qualified, understand the exit conditions. They'll probably call it things like work restrictions or income restrictions or weekly supervision requirements. Understand what those things are and look forward to the day you can exceed them. Don't let them trap you in the greenhouse forever. That's number 2. Number 3, expect detours. It's not just going to be a straight path, even though you've laid a good foundation and you're working within a system. Celebrate the small steps, but expect setbacks. You're, using the employment example, you're ready, you've got your foundations, you have some benefits, you're ready to apply for jobs so that you can start to be self-sufficient. You find that job. And your goal is not to find your dream job. Your goal is not to find the highest paying job out there in the world. Your job is to find your next job so that you can be moving forward. And you're gaining ground when you do that. Even if it turns out it's not the greatest job for you or not the best fit for you, or even, in the worst case, if you lose that job in the first couple of weeks, you still gained information, you still gained experience, you still gained know-how. You're moving forward. Our faith tradition is full of stories of people who mess up over and over and over again, and yet they rise to noble roles, whether they're maids or kings. Celebrate the little steps. Expect and react intelligently to setbacks. The model I like to think of is be a Super Ball. If the Super Ball just lays on the ground, admittedly, it doesn't do anything. But once you pick it up and get it up somewhere and then drop it, it goes back down to the ground, but it's not where it started. It has momentum and it bounces. And something weird about a Super Ball is it bounces higher than before. And so be a Super Bowl. All right. So in summary, avoid shame when working on complicated issues. Look for the underlying issues or foundation and make sure they're solid. Work within systems, but don't accept all the assumptions. You don't want to become dependent on the system. And celebrate small steps forward, but accept and expect some rough moments. Setbacks don't mean failure. They mean you're moving forward. That's 3 things, and thanks for listening.